Pixar hired 48 animators to create Inside Out, one of their biggest movies ever.
What is your problem? Just leave me alone.
Sir, reporting high levels of sass.
Take it to DEFCON 2.
But today, one single person with the right AI workflow can create animation scenes that look like this in just a few minutes. And the craziest part is that even a complete beginner can learn how to do it. However, getting this right is still much harder than it looks, because while a lot of people talk about AI animation online, very few actually show the full workflow behind results like these. So in this video, I'm going to show you the easiest yet most powerful process I personally use to create professional quality animations. Now, the biggest mistake I see beginners make with AI animation happens before they even generate anything. They open the tool, throw in a rough idea, and spend the next 10 generations trying to fix a result that came back feeling off. But the problem usually isn't the tool, it's that they started generating without a clear plan. Think about building a house without a blueprint. You can pour concrete and put up walls, but at some point you realize the rooms don't connect, and fixing that later costs way more than planning from the start. With AI animation, the exact same thing happens, except instead of wasted time, it's wasted credits. And the reason this matters more with AI than with anything else is because every generation costs real money. The model can only work with the information you actually give it. So when the scene is still fuzzy in your head, the output comes back fuzzy. And instead of spending credits on the right generations, you end up spending them on trying to repair the wrong ones. So that's why I never open any AI tool before I get 5 essential elements in place. And because these became an unbreakable rule for me, I actually gave it a name, the scene framework. Inside, I create the story, the characters, and the emotions from scratch. And then I also add the narrative beats and each clip's rules to lock in the final structure. It might sound like a lot at first, but this actually makes my entire workflow 10 times faster. And once you get the hang of it, the whole process becomes extremely easy. And that's because once you know exactly what to build and in what order, you just have to press a few buttons and that's it. So let me show you how I use the scene framework. The first letter inside is S, which stands for story. And this comes straight from how Pixar structures every film they've ever made. Pixar calls it the inciting incident, and it's that one specific event that forces the main character into action and breaks their normal world. For example, in Toy Story, Woody has been Andy's favorite toy his entire life, but when Buzz Lightyear arrives, the whole situation changes. That's the inciting incident. For my sequence, it's going to be when the safety rope snaps and leaves the climber dangling from one gloved hand over a glacial drop. And even though this might not seem like the obvious place to start, that's exactly what real filmmakers do. They lock the ending before they design the beginning of the story, because without knowing how this sequence resolves, you can't write a first clip that sets it up correctly. Now, character planning at this stage has nothing to do with personality or backstory. It's purely about having a clear idea of what your characters look like and who they are before you create a single thing. And that's what C stands for. The creators behind Pixar spent 4 years designing the characters for Coco before animating a single frame. Not because they were perfectionists, but because a character that's fully built before production starts is one you never have to worry about ever again. But for this stage, I don't need a full visual description yet. What I need is just to know who's in the sequence and have a general sense of what they look like. In my scene description, that's a lone mountain climber named Mira and a snowy owl that appears. The full descriptions come later when I actually build them. Next, it's the letter E, which stands for emotion, and I'm pulling this filmmaking rule directly from one of the greatest directors who ever lived, Stanley Kubrick. You see, this guy always decided his color palettes before cameras were ever set up on set. For the movie The Shining, he built the entire visual palette around blues and whites, and that's because psychology clearly shows that colors influence our emotions and feelings. So Stanley chose cold tones to add emotion and create unease in his movie. But the same principle applies to AI filmmaking too. The emotional direction you define at the planning stage shapes your color palette, the camera angles, and the sound design. In my scene description, I'm using phrases like cinematic intensity and her expression shifts to panic to give the model a clear emotional direction to work from. The sequence moves from tension into danger into relief, and every visual choice in this workflow follows from that. Now, I'll take all these 3 elements from the scene framework and put them into Claude. What I care about when it comes back isn't whether the writing sounds polished. I need the opening to create a strong enough problem, the middle to make that problem feel genuinely dangerous and the ending to actually earn the relief. The most important thing is the emotional shape. If the output gets that right, then the structure works. Yes, this is exactly what I expected. Now let's take a look at the bigger picture of our story. And for this, I'm going to be using the narrative beats. To really understand them, you first need to see how some of the top film productions create their animations. For example, Pixar always builds their movies on the same structure, and that's made of 3 parts: the setup, the confrontation, and the resolution. The first act introduces the problem, the second makes it worse, and the third resolves it. So if we copy the same process, our 3 clips are a miniature version of exactly this. But the big rule is that each clip gets one job only. The first clip sets up the danger, the second escalates it, and the third resolves it. The moment a clip tries to do 2 of those at once, the pacing breaks. And this matters even more with AI than it does with traditional film. The model doesn't know what's coming in the next clip. So if you try to pack 2 emotional jobs into one generation, the model splits its attention between both, and neither one lands the way you need it to. So I go back to Claude and ask it to break the sequence into that structure. 3 connected clips, each with a specific camera direction and a specific emotional beat. Here's the prompt. The last letter is E for every clip rules. In professional film production, every department gets a production Bible before filming starts. So costume, lighting, and set design all follow the same document, keeping the world consistent even when you're shooting out of order across 6 months. Now look at the line I've used across every description I've written for this project. Rendered in Pixar-style 3D, expressive features, soft shading, stylized proportions, cinematic intensity. This is the production Bible for my video, and if it's missing from even one clip, that clip starts to drift from the rest, and even a slight style shift is all it takes to make it look unprofessional. Because the goal isn't to just make decent AI videos, the goal is to build something that looks genuinely cinematic. So if you do the same with your animations, you'll get the same results as the best AI filmmakers working right now. And with all these 5 elements in place, you know exactly what story you're telling, how it needs to feel, and what each clip needs to do. But there's actually a bigger problem than planning when it comes to creating animations with AI: the location. And that's because it's the only thing that needs to stay consistent across every single scene. Up until now, there was only one method that got somewhat close to solving this, and that was using reference images. The first step was quite simple. You generate one image of your location and attach it to the prompt. But the moment you wanted to explore a different part of that space, things got complicated, because if you wanted to look around the location from another angle, you had to go back to the AI model and generate new images until you got the right result. And even if you were already used to that workflow, the results still weren't always as exact as you wanted. But there was an even bigger problem with this method. Let's say your location is a simple room with a bed on one side and a TV on the other. For the first shot, you film the bed. For the second one, you turn around and film the TV. So now you already need another reference image for the opposite side of the room. But then let's say you want a third shot that does a full 360-degree tour of the entire room in one continuous scene. This is where the real problem starts, because even if you give the AI multiple reference images, it still has to guess how those images connect together in the 3D space. And that's because it doesn't fully understand that they're all part of the same location. So instead of seeing one complete room, it just sees separate images. And that's exactly why this method becomes so frustrating when you want consistent shots from every angle. But just a few weeks ago, one new feature got introduced and changed all of that. It's called 3D World, and what makes this so powerful is that it knows exactly where every object sits inside your location without you needing to generate a bunch of different reference images for every angle. So what this really means is 3 things. First, you build the location once and then reuse it across every single scene. Second, you get unlimited camera angles inside the same world without needing to run a new prompt every time. And third, every object stays exactly where you placed it in every single shot. So you can even create a full 360 of the entire location without adding anything else. So that's why I'm going to be using this 3D World feature for today's workflow. And the tool I'm using to get access to it is OpenArt, because it's the only platform where it's available right now. So let me show you how to actually build it. When I click on Create World, it opens a page where I can build the world in 3 different ways. I can explore the preset worlds OpenArt already has, describe my world from text, or create it from images I upload myself. And the reason I always go with the image option is because it gives me the most control over what the world actually looks like. With text, the result is the model's interpretation of what I described. With my own images, it's building from exactly what I have in mind. So the first thing I need to do is create the location images. For this, I'll go to the Create Image section and make sure Nano Banana Pro is selected as the model. This is currently the best option for this type of high quality location reference. Then I'll set the aspect ratio to 16:9, increase the resolution to 2K, and generate 4 variations instead of just 1, so I have real options to choose from. Here's the prompt I'll paste in, and these are the 4 results we get back. I like this one the most, so I am gonna pick it. You can also edit your image if you're not happy with it. Click Edit Image on the right side of the screen screen, this will open the editing panel where you can describe the changes you want, draw over a specific area, or annotate the exact part you'd like to modify. Now this is where the process gets really powerful. If I want to build the most accurate 3D world possible, I can't rely on just one image. I need to give the AI multiple angles of the exact same location, and that's because the more spatial information it has to work with, the better it understands how the environment actually connects in 3 dimensions. So for this, I'll go to the left side panel and choose camera angle control. Once you open it, you'll see a few settings here. You have the option to rotate the camera left and right, rotate it up and down, and also choose between different camera types like default, wide angle, and close-up. There's also a mode setting where you can choose between fast and ultra. And I want to quickly point something out here because this part is a bit misleading. Fast doesn't mean better quality in less time. It just means the image gets generated quicker but at a lower quality. Ultra is the option you want if you care about getting the best possible result. And when it comes to building a 3D world, that quality matters every single time. Now instead of adjusting each angle manually and generating one by one, I'll just click Create All Angles. This generates a full set of angle variations in one go. Once I have them, I'll choose 4 images that cover a good spread of spatial directions like front, side, and the angles in between, and then go back into the Create World section. From there, I'll click on Create from Image, upload those 4 images, and then press Create 3D World. The generation takes a few minutes, but once it's done, the world appears in the Creations panel. I can now move freely inside the environment and look in any direction until I find the exact angle I want. And anytime I want to capture something from that position, I press Take Shot. A prompt box appears, and from here, there are a few settings I can adjust. The first one is focal length. This goes from 23mm for a wide establishing shot all the way up to 300mm for a compressed cinematic close-up. For my example, I'll go with around 40mm because it gives me a clean, natural look without distorting the cliff. Then I'll keep the aspect ratio at 16:9 for video. Make sure auto enhance is enabled so the final image looks sharper. Frame the shot and click Take Shot. So here is the result I get back. The cliff feels massive, the cold palette stays perfectly consistent, and every detail remains exactly where I placed it. But what's really important is that I can now pull another shot from a completely different angle without touching the prompt again. So with a 3D world like this, creating animations becomes 10 times easier and faster. However, this is not very useful if you can't add characters to it. So that's what we're going to do next, but first we have to actually create them. For this, I'll be using one simple feature inside OpenArt. So if you don't have an account yet, I'll leave a link in the description below where you can sign up. So now that we have our location locked in, we need to bring our characters to life. And for this, let's head over to the character section on the home page and press Create Character. From here, I've got 3 options for how to build my character. I can describe them from scratch, start from an existing image, or build them piece by piece. Describing from scratch means writing out every visual detail and letting the model build a character to match. If you go with the image option, you upload a reference and the AI reads the look directly from it. Build your character is more structured. You pick from a preset library of vibes, gender, and ethnicity. For my example, I'll go with Describe Your Character because it gives me the most control over the final look. And for the model, I'll select Nano Banana Pro, which is the best option when you need strong detail and facial consistency across every generation. Now, the key to getting a great character on the first try is writing a prompt that covers every detail, from physical features and clothing to expression, lighting, and any scene-specific touches you want locked in. And the reason you want to include every detail is simple. The more specific you are, the less the AI has to decide on its own. Every gap in the prompt gets filled in however the model sees fit, and that interpretation might not match across scenes. The more you put in, the more consistent it comes back. Here's the prompt I'll write for my first character, Mira, and here's the result we get back. The face holds exactly as I described, and every detail from the frost on her eyebrows to the worn fingertips on her gloves is in place. Now I'll click save and name the character so I can reuse her across every scene. And I'll do exactly the same process for my second character, the snowy owl. And just like with Mira, I want every detail locked in from the start, because the owl appears in the final scene and has to read clearly on camera even through the fast action shots. Here's the prompt I'll write, and this is what we get back. I love how the feathers came out, but the best part is that once these characters are saved, I don't need to regenerate them ever again. They live in my character library and I can pull them into any scene I want with a single click. So these are all the elements you need to create your animation. The only step left is to put them all together and create the scenes. And for this, we're going to be using one of the newest and most powerful AI video generators out there, Seedance 2.0. So let's go ahead to the video section inside OpenArt and make sure it's selected as our model. Now before we touch anything, let's head straight to the resolution section. And as you'll see, Seedance Seedance 2.0 gives us the option to generate in 1080p, but I'm not going to select that. Now the reason I'm not choosing 1080p is because of one simple trick I'm going to show you later in this video that will save you a ton of credits while still taking the final video to the highest quality possible. More on that in a minute. For now, there's one more setting that's going to do most of the heavy lifting, and that's the generation mode. I'll switch it over to text with reference, and now I can use all the elements we already created to get the best results possible. For this first clip, I'll attach Mira and the Snow Mountain world. And one quick tip here, always attach your location as a reference in every single clip, but only include the characters that actually appear in that specific shot. Attaching characters that are not in the scene can confuse the AI and cause weird overlap artifacts. And if you look at the top of the settings panel, you'll notice that each reference gets tagged with an @ symbol. So when I write the action, I'll reference them so the AI knows which reference is which. Then I'll set the duration to 15 seconds and keep the aspect ratio at 16:9. Now the most important part of this entire section is how you write the actual prompt. And the biggest mistake people make is writing one generic sentence that describes the whole scene, like Mira climbs the cliff and falls. That gives the AI almost no direction. So every generation becomes a gamble on whether the camera even moves, whether the action looks right, or whether the mood fits. So instead, what you want to do is break the clip down into individual shots. And when I say individual shots, I mean shot 1, shot 2, shot 3 inside the same prompt. So the AI treats each one like its own small scene with its own camera, action, and audio. This is what stops the clip from feeling like one long continuous zoom or one static take. It's also what lets you build real cinematic cuts inside a single 15-second generation. And for each of those shots, you want to describe 3 things. The first is the camera. You're not just picking a type, you're writing the full movement, where it starts, how it moves, and where it ends up. A wide drone shot that slowly pushes down toward the cliff tells the AI something specific. Camera shot tells it nothing. You can go from aerial sweeps to slow push-ins to high-angle close-ups, and the more direction you write in, the more control you get over the final cut. The second is the character action. Exactly what they're doing, how they're positioned, and what the environment is doing around them. And the third, which most people skip completely, is the audio. Because Seedance generates sound directly from the prompt, and it only really nails it when you describe the audio with the same level of detail as the visuals. So instead of just writing wind sounds, you'd write something like howling wind, muffled snow, a sharp rope snap, and her strained gasp. That gives the AI real sound to work with, not just generic noise. So when you put all 3 together, a single shot inside your prompt might look like this. You stack 5 or 6 of these inside the same prompt, and that's how you get a full cinematic 15-second clip from one generation. Here's the full prompt I'll write for my first clip, and this is what we get back. The cliff looks massive, the drop feels real, and the rope snap sounds exactly like it should. And on top of that, you can see how good Seedance is at capturing real emotion. Just look at Mira's reaction when she starts panicking. But what I really love is how the camera moves from a wide drone shot all the way into a close-up inside the same 15 seconds, because that's the kind of cut that used to take a whole editing team. So for the second clip, the references stay exactly the same, but the action shifts to Mira dangling from a single hand, launching for a ledge, and barely catching it. Here's the prompt. And here's the result. The swing off the cliff face looks really natural, and the way her fingers grab the edge makes you feel like she might slip at any second. But for the final clip, I need to bring in a new reference, because this is where the snowy owl enters. So now, I'll attach all 3 references: Mira, the Snow Mountain world, and the snowy owl I created earlier. And this is the prompt I'll write. The owl flying up from the mist looks great, and it completely sells the rescue moment. Now the only thing left to do is stitch all these scenes together into one full video. For this, you can use any editing software. And because this step alone is not complicated at all, I'm going to use CapCut. So inside CapCut, I'll drop all the clips I generated onto the timeline in the order of the story. Then I'll pick the best takes from each generation, trim anything that doesn't fit, and make sure the cuts land cleanly on the action beats. And once the full video is assembled, I'll export it as one single file. Now I promised to show you the resolution trick a few minutes ago. So here it finally is. Instead of generating all your scenes in 1080p, create them in 720p, and then upscale the final video once. And here's the real math behind it. 3 15-second clips in 1080p on Seedance 2.0 costs around 9,000 credits. But doing all 3 in 720p and then upscaling the final video once costs close to 4,100 credits. So that's half the credits saved on a single video, which at OpenArt's pricing comes out to around $5 back in your pocket every single time you make one of these. So now that the video is already cut and finished, I can head back into OpenArt, open the video section, and click Upscale Video. From there, I'll set the resolution to 2K and generate. In my opinion, this looks like a real animated film that kids would love to watch at the cinema. But this is only possible because of the advanced AI features, like the 3D world and the character builder that make everything 10 times easier. If you want to test them yourself, go ahead and sign up to OpenArt with the link in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.